Well, good morning. I don't want to keep you for too long. We will start this session, and this is a recorded session because hopefully we'll build up a bit of case studies of new cooperatives coming to life in this part of Ireland, Northern Ireland. So it's part of a series, a Discovery Co-ops series, and I hope that this series will allow us to really introduce the new cooperatives that are emerging. I'm trying to also admit people to the session, so please bear with me if I have some kind of pauses in what I'm trying to tell you. The cooperative series is actually sponsored by the Belfast City Council and has been sponsored through a different kind of support for cooperatives in these difficult times. So in the last 2 years, we had at our disposal additional funds to raise awareness of cooperatives in Northern Ireland. In September, so we did a session on what are community shares. And in October, we started with another session talking about cooperatives and community wealth building. And today we will introduce the Good to Grow cooperative to you. But please make a note of these new dates. We have another Discover Co-ops event in November, the 9th of November, and we will introduce to you Rubble's Co-op. And Rubble's Co-op, again, is an IT co-op just emerging in this region. Cooperative Skills, it's the next event on our calendar, and it's 6 steps, maybe 7, to make co-ops happen. It's kind of to be a bit jokey. The title is a bit jokey about how many steps to make a co-op. In reality, there are no many steps, but certainly there are certain areas that you need to look after if you want to develop your cooperative. So just let us talk about Discover Co-ops today. Good to Grow. I met these beautiful women a couple of years ago talking about Good to Grow. We went through quite a lot of development sessions, and then just last year they were up and running, and they've done great things. So I wanted to just to let you know that this is the agenda of today. We'll let Jill McNeil and Sandy McCartney tell us about their cooperative. Then we open the floor to your questions, and I'm sure that you will have a lot of questions. And if we have a bit of time at the end, we will also try to draw some conclusion and share the learning from any kind of discussion that we have today. So remember, this is also sponsored by Cooperative Alternatives, and we are the cooperative development body kind of based here in Northern Ireland. So I finish my brief presentation, and I pass it to Sandy and Jill now.
Okay, hello everybody. Sandy's just going to get the presentation just up. Okay, well, as the slide says, hello and welcome. It's a short presentation on Good to Grow Co-op. I'm Jill McNeil, and I'm joined by my colleague and good friend, Sandy Carney. Next, please. So today we'll cover why we started the co-op, who we are, what we do, and hopefully give you an insight into our plans going forward. Next, please. So horticulture is a huge, big subject. We've decided to concentrate on a few initial areas. These are networking, consultancy, and educational outreach, events and PR, as a horticultural well-being place to be, advice and signposting. Now, this is not exhaustive at this stage. Next, please. As a consortium co-op, we are backed by horticultural knowledge. We established in 2020, but obviously without saying it, I'll have to say it, with COVID, it held everything back, as you can imagine. Next slide, please. So between us, we're very old indeed. We have 92 years of collective transferable skills across admin, healthcare and media. Our horticultural qualifications from Greenmount Caffrey, they are actually the foundation in horticulture. And now for the first time, Greenmount have brought about a top-up degree. So I'm actually on that at the moment. It's part-time study once again. And along with attaining other qualifications such as MSc between us in rural studies and the Thrive Social and Therapeutic Therapy qualification, we all believe in lifelong learning. So we still hold full-time jobs in our original backgrounds. So the message here, it is possible to do this with a little determination and lots of organisation. Next slide, please. So why a co-op? Well, really together we are stronger and we can pool ideas and expertise. Co-ops are democratic. It's one member, one vote. Money made goes back into the co-op and members benefit, not outside shareholders. They're just some of the many benefits of starting a co-op. As a consortium, we're inclusive of members who are or can be other businesses, end users, community gardeners, horticultural linked trades and professions. Next slide, please. So we are open for collaboration. We had a focus group when we set up initially, and that really helped us bring our ideas together because, as mentioned before, horticulture is such a big subject. We also developed governance, policies, procedures, and we raised capital beyond our own sweat equity. And slide 8, please. So we wouldn't be here without Co-op Alternatives and Tiziana O'Hara, who has tirelessly supported us from the get-go and continues to do so. And also Belfast City Council through the Get Ready to Grow programme and the match funding, which we took part in. We were one of 10 projects that matter, and it was crowdfunding. So we managed to bring together £5,000 of capital, which we're quite happy with, given that it was right in the middle of COVID. And slide 9, please, Sandy. So we're so much more than just horticulture in the basic sense. We see our co-op evolving and developing as we bring new members into the business. It's all about people. It's run by members for members. Now over to you, Sandy, for the rest of the presentation.
Oh, Tommy, but it's just getting too much for us.
Yeah, it's too much.
So for us, it is, hi, I'm Sandy Carney. I'm one of the 3 founding members of Good to Grow. For us, it's about creating a hub and also becoming a collective. Horticulture, as Jill has said, is quite a broad subject and you can't know everything. So we rely on people to, as collectively.
No, not give it to me.
Sorry. Collectively. So for instance, Mary might have been growing tomatoes down the road for 30 years. She knows the ins and outs, she knows the quirks, she knows the local area, what works with her, things like frost dates. And then we also have Greenmount who are developing alternative ways of producing. So part of our thought is, why not connect those people together? And then on top of that, why not connect them with the horticulture community, people who have community gardens, allotments, designers. So part of the thing is also about that to do that, we need a platform where people can share from. I was just about to say next slide. Okay, so the supporting platform that we've got is about linking people together. It's also through education, learning new ways of doing things, sharing information, events to promote and connect different people. So we've all been to events where you always find something new. And then there is also the wellbeing, particularly in COVID at the moment and the isolation. The wellbeing in part of the Take 5 program, where you learn, connect, do, become involved. That's a very important part of our horticultural interests as well, is in that connection. Education is really important. As Jill said earlier, we're very keen on lifelong learning and becoming aware of environmental issues, things like community, so community working together, actually learning about what to do with the produce, how to produce it, things like roadshows that we could do for actually showing people how to grow things, maintain things, and attendance to specific events that we could sort of show what's going on in the world of horticulture. It's not an industry that's very good at sharing at the moment. So just to round us up, but roundup's not near our co-op. Current projects that we're working on, it's primarily at the moment about getting our name out there. So as a cooperative, we do need to build up membership, but we also need to be strong in what we're doing before we invite others in. So there's a project that we're working on with one of the local councils in supporting their development of a community garden. And there's a communication tool called Space Shaper, and there'll be an opportunity for using that to engage and see what people need. Then there's a local business that is considering offering a tree to be planted for every pizza sold. And that's just it hasn't gone any further at the moment. We're just in consultation with that business. Recent promotions, we were very fortunate to have a 4-page article in the Horticulturalist, which is a UK national magazine for the profession, and that sort of connected us with people in different fields within horticulture, which is quite broad. And we'll be using that platform to extend contacts with people as we go through. And then for next year, we've thought about a way of getting our principles out there and also connecting with people. There will be an area in Belfast where we'll be running a program called the 1 Metre Feed Bank Challenge. So what we'll be asking people to do is to grow some produce in a 1 metre square or equivalent, and then share that produce with their family, but also share it with a local food bank. And we've been engaging with councils and other local community people, and they seem to be quite interested in this, which is great. So from that will also increase our awareness of our
Sorry,
cooperative.
Sandy, can we ask you to mute, please? If you just joined the meeting, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
And this will be where we can start to really drive our membership, connecting with groups and other members. Being a cooperative, it's not instantaneous. It is about building up. So it's building up trust and awareness and encouraging members to join. So just in general, horticulture is a broad range. So for us, it's to create a common ground, connect and establish relationships with people. And that strength for our cooperative will come from existing networks that we already have and the ones that we're gradually creating. It's not just about today, but for all our tomorrows. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Sandy and Jill. Thank you for this overview. But of course, I'm sure that a lot of people will have a lot of questions because bear in mind that this is a very new cooperative. So you are maybe in the process of thinking about your own cooperative. So this is your chance to ask some interesting questions. So maybe I should start to warm up the floor, as we say. Please do now unmute yourself. We don't need to stay mute at this moment in time. And thank you for respecting, our speakers. But okay, so let us start, Sandy and Jill. My question, very difficult question. What was very, very challenging for you when you decided to create a cooperative? What was the most difficult part of your development journey?
We say time and people.
Yeah. Expand.
Yeah. And patience in, because we wanted the cooperative to get going, but we really needed to do that base platform of membership policies, GDPR. We needed all of that structure in place before we could even start walking, let alone run. I think that was.
And the insurance obviously is a big part of that as well, getting all of that and getting the best price. So all of that sort of housekeeping, I suppose.
What do you mean, Jill, by people and time? What was the challenge with the people? At the end of the day, cooperatives are organization made by people.
Yeah,
so what is the challenge of you?
Okay, well, it's getting the right people around you. I would say the same as in any project. A lot of people are fired up with the idea. They think it's a wonderful idea, but then they realize, whoops, I don't have any time here. So we had a great steering group, a focus group to start off with, but a lot of those people sort of, drop by the wayside. They're still very supportive, but they're not part of it. So, our job now is to actually actively go out and get members, as the same is for any co-op, because members are what makes a co-op, as you're saying, Tiziana. And time, obviously, even ourselves, I mean, we're very time poor. But now I actually put a day a week into nothing else but Good to Grow. And Sandy and the third founding member, Paul, who couldn't be with us today, he also puts time in, as well as does Sandy. But we all still hold full-time jobs for the time being, because that's been realistic, really.
But it will be paid time now, not only sweat equity.
It's not only sweat equity, it's now paid time. So we've stepped up a bit, raised our game. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Don't be shy. We probably won't be able to answer them anyway. So
I just was wondering if you have anything to say about those people who are still interested but aren't part of it. I guess, I'm thinking about a kind of multi-agency or a stakeholder cooperative where everyone, where you have members who are heavily involved and members who are just, they're members and they come to the AGM and they use your services, etc. Some more than others. I just haven't quite got my head around how that all balances out. How do you get the balance between the people who are very active and who are putting the sweat equity in, as you say, and those who are members but who are quite happy to attend the AGM and be customers as opposed to the more committed people. I haven't quite got my head around how that all works yet.
Yeah,
so if you tell me what it looks like at the moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is important to build up that core, Julie, and it can be difficult. There's no point in saying it's easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But I think it's very important that the other people who were involved, they will be members. And bring along, maybe 2 meetings and AGMs and so on. But it's that core group of people who actually steer the co-op. They're not any more important than anybody else who's a member, but it evolves over time, and it's a bit of a difficult one with COVID and with actually getting hold of people, and a lot of it's done as it is now rather than face to face. So does that answer you any, Sandy? Have you anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you do still need a core of people to drive things. And you drive it based on what your membership wants, but you do need somebody there to do things like this, connect and background things, and it can't.
No.
And for us as a cooperative, we are paid for some of our time to implement what the members want.
Yeah. So how are you doing that at the moment, just as a follow-up question? So how are you hearing from your members? Are you hearing from them on a regular basis? And what does that look like?
It's very easy at the moment because there's only the three of us.
That's, yeah, we're really only starting now, yeah.
So that's where our prime launch for 2022 will be, to increase that membership. And I think with the different things that we're doing, we'll give people inspiration of the different types of things that they can do, so that when they come to us with ideas and so we're just getting it started, showing tasters, and then, you know, it's for the members to drive what they want.
I think, Julie, as well, it's very important for those who are that core group to share the responsibility, because human nature being human nature, a lot of people then, just a few people end up doing a lot of work just in any group. So it's very important to make sure that everybody's involved. So
yeah, and communication is just such a major part of it. And we were discussing with Tiziana at one point that you know, when there's not necessarily conflict but different views, that actually could be seen as a positive thing, because different views, you'll then all together take a different approach and come up with quite a creative idea. So it's just how people let go of their one idea and merge it with others. So I'm not saying I'm skilled in that, but that's sort of the drive. That's the aim.
We overcome the fear of conflict in some sort of way. There is a question down into the chat. Olive, you're there. Do you want to ask the question yourself? If you are there, thank you. Thank you, Olive.
Thanks very much for your presentation. Really, really interesting. I was just curious, and I'm always curious as to why groups choose a cooperative model as opposed to all the other different structures that are out there, because it always excites me when people choose the co-op model, when, you know, there's so many kind of luring offers from other kind of structures. So I just wanted to get a sense of that, please.
it's democratic. It's one member, one vote. There's just so many positives, really. I think then together, I think I mentioned there, together we are stronger, you know, and you find like-minded people. They tend to gather around and you know, share those views. It's democratic. You know, help me out here, Tiziana, with some of the other.
No, I think your origin was actually telling. You know, this group met as students, mature students, may I say that? Mature students at college. So they all decide at one point in their life to go back and study horticulture. And that is great in itself, but they went further, say, well, what we can do with our knowledge now. And I think all of you had some kind of different skills as well, because horticulture is so big. I remember at the beginning, I couldn't really understand how many horticultural different sections are in the world. So and all of them had the passion for something. Somebody was very much into trees, some others into gardens, some other into flowers. So all those skills are then put together. I thought at the beginning it was really a group of students who wanted to do something together. And I love that, and it had a lot of energy. And of course, then it becomes more about the journey than to become more stable. And then when you start to maybe choose the people that wants to be with you longer in that journey, and other people that are falling off. So there is a natural also kind of shedding, and the tree is stronger for what is remaining. Is it not true, Jill?
I love that analogy of the tree there, Tiziana. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. It's also for future generations, because we plan to share this with you know, with future hort students as well at Greenmount College. And because I'm doing the new part-time BSc in horticulture, which is now available there. I'm actually, rather than just picking stuff to present that has no bearing in anything, I'm actually presenting on Good to Grow to let other people know about it, you know, and trying to get it through the college so that they know in turn about what cooperatives are, because a lot of college students have no idea, you know, and that's nothing to do with, you know, Tiziana. It's just the way it is. It's hard to get it across there because they tend to go for other business models. So it's something I'm working on. You know,
the other aspect that I personally quite like is the fact that people it is the one vote aspect I really like. So if there are students, like in horticulture, it's not an industry that's has high pay levels. So if you're a member, you're not limited by, your voice isn't limited by how much you financially contribute. So if you're a member, it doesn't matter if the other person has a lot more shares in it, they still have a voice. So I that's one of the things that I quite like.
And have an equal voice. So somebody who has 1,000 shares, somebody who has 1,000 shares will just have one vote, the same as, you know, one person with one share. So it's very fair. Does that answer the?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. Thank you. And it always excites me to hear when groups do choose that model, and to know why. And just to say, I can just see from the attendance here that we have a number of students here today from we run a postgraduate master's program in cooperatives, agri-food and sustainable development. You can see from the names here that several of our students are here, so I'm sure they're taking great inspiration from your work. So thank you very much.
Great.
Olive, can you tell a bit more where you are from, the University of Cork?
Sorry, I should, yes, of course. So I'm from the Centre for Cooperative Studies, believe it or not, University College Cork, and we're a research centre that has been in existence since about 1980, 1981, long before my time, of course. But we conduct research on all aspects of cooperative. So we are also associated with the Department of Food Business and Development in UCC. So we have quite an interest in food cooperatives of all kinds. And obviously a lot of our research has been around kind of dairy and agriculture. But fantastic to see horticulture starting to emerge in kind of the cooperative sphere now again, because we would have had, I'm not sure if it's still there, in North Dublin or Meath, there was a fruit and vegetable growers cooperative some years back. I'm not sure if it still exists or not. It's just great to see this kind of model emerging again in kind of food and more kind of locally grown food as well. So I'll be following your, I'll be tracking your movements over the next months and years to see how you get on, and just wish you the very best in your work.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Olive.
Oliver, can I also then maybe, given that the subject is more than cooperative, it's also about food, can I also bring it to the attention to the audience today that we have Julie Hoy from Azora Community Farm. It's another emerging community farm. Julie, maybe if with your permission, would you like to say a few words? Because then we can have a conversation about how important is food in the cooperative world. Julie, tell us a bit more about you.
Well, indeed, it is the staff of life. So thanks, Tiziana. Thank you for asking me to say a few words. So we became a BENCOM last week or the week before. We are a new community benefit society, Azora Community Farm. We are a steering group of 6 people at the moment. 5 of us are part of the BENCOM. That's just an interesting little tidbit for you there, just to think about how we involve people who aren't members of the BENCOM or of the cooperative, and that's an interesting thing that we're thinking through in terms of governance and so on. We each have our defined roles. Most of us have full-time jobs doing other stuff. We one of the key things for us as growing as a Azora Community Farm is that one of our members owns the land on which we farm at the moment, and over time we'd like to transfer the ownership of that land to us. So this will, like all things, you know, these things take time. So one of the things that we wanted to do was establish ourselves as a farm wherever we farm, and to establish our identity as a community benefit society with, you know, one member, one vote, and what that sense of cooperation. And I think it's really interesting to see how that model has helped us to change the culture of how we do things, of how we meet. So we meet every week for about an hour by Zoom, and Zoom and whatever has been hugely influential in allowing people with full-time jobs to get involved in these ways and to be involved in this kind of work. But now we travel to the farm once a week for a 2-hour work party, and most of us do that too on a Sunday afternoon between 11 and 1. And that's, again, building relationships. And it's also allowing us to move from a period when everything has been very governance heavy, you know, virtual meetings, into actually getting your hands dirty and getting your feet dirty and getting that sense of growing things at last. And that's been really important to us. We've also, you know, started to develop our capacity and our resilience to problem solve together. We've started to see where our strengths lie. We've started to respond to the kind of our individual desires. So, you know, there's one person who really wants to grow, so we've been encouraging her and helping her to find her way through to that, and lifting off some of the administrative stuff that she'd been doing for a while. And then there's others who you know, are involving their children and getting involved there. And we're dealing with problems, and we're, one of the key ways in which I think we've grown is we've started to see problems as things that can be seen as an opportunity to turn it into something like an opportunity. So, for example, our water supply has been affected to the farm recently through a dispute. So could we manage to have a farm where we just harvest the rainwater rather than have water supply? We've had some other issues to deal with, and we've just been thinking about how do we, and that has led us to explore horticulture around the world and to see different people, you know, how do different people cope when they don't have lots of water, or when they don't have an electrical line to their farm? What do people use? Can we go back to mechanical uses and things like that? And we've also been exploring one of our frustrations with our site is that it's not very accessible to volunteers, particularly volunteers who are new to working on the land. So we're seeing this as an area where we call it pro-grow, so professional growing with 2 polytunnels, and then we're thinking, and we're also connecting to local food producers and growing what they need. So there's a lady who makes dill pickles, so we're going to grow her the cucumbers that she needs for those. But we're also looking for plan B, which is that if anything goes wrong with this land, or even if it doesn't, we'd like a piece of land closer to the city centre in Lisburn, where we can do a bit more community gardening and community growing, and involve volunteers, because we have volunteers who are keen to get involved. So we're looking at other opportunities, not pushing ahead, but always getting ourselves known, starting to build our social media offering. And key, I feel, to getting people to engage is to have that kind of time when we all meet together to grow. And so that's what we're doing on Sundays.
Yeah, no, thank you. Can I ask you, Julie, I think that in the last year, we've seen also, you know, Jill and Sandy and yourself, but quite a lot of interest in food and how we produce food and how we kind of access food. I mean, another cooperative, very new in Northern Ireland, is the Belfast Food Co-op. And it seems that the food is becoming really something close to the heart of people. Can I get maybe a sense from maybe Jill, Sandy, and then Julie as well? How do we have, and then also from the audience, what do you think, why is so important now?
I think certainly then food connecting as well, connecting with the earth and, you know, well-being. And this whole thing, especially I think with COVID and lockdown and how people could go outdoors, and if they didn't have a garden, they went to the local park or wherever they could go. So I think sort of the natural health service, I think it's been called now. Somebody's coined this phrase, is probably overused already. But I think there's a big link between, you know, growing what you grow, knowing where it's coming from, and then taking what you grow, harvesting, cooking, you know, and inwardly digesting, you know. So, you know, it's all linked with well-being, you know. So that would be my, yeah.
Sandy, you wanted to add something from an horticulturalist point of view?
I just sort of, I think moving away from synthetic sort of chemicals, not that everything needs to be organic, but stuff done on organic principles. And I think sharing the challenges, the positives that you have is really important for an industry to grow. And especially, we're all very small scale. We're not, you know, so I think those connections are really very important, and sharing of information.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Sandy. I think, you know, Brexit and the pandemic have been big shocks to us all and have shown us the fragility of our just-in-time food systems, our logistics systems that kind of fall apart. And I guess we've also got our hands dirty because we've got into our gardens and our forests and our seasides and all of those. And I guess the other thing is that it's reminded people that of where they live and of the resources that they have in their hands. And the, you know, climate change is the context in which we operate. So people are starting to think about food security, and, you know, governments are starting to think about food security in the place of agriculture. And clearly the removal of the UK from the EU and the implications that has for farming and agribusiness and all of that. We're just seeing a huge shaking, aren't we, of everything that was normal and ordinary and accepted for so long. And I think there's just a desire to see some of the kind of local, you know, we have a huge government, what is a universal basic income of a £100 gift card, you know, to Northern Irish residents to spend locally. Now, we know that they can't stop them from spending it in Tesco on an Amazon voucher, but we are seeing lots of people who want to buy local. And I didn't mention, but I'm also trying to set up another cooperative, which is Sonus, which is going to be Lisburn's first zero waste refill store and greengrocer. And we'll also have a cafe, and an event space. So that's all about community. You know, when we're thinking about the strap line, we haven't decided, but we were talking this morning, you know, refill, reuse, recycle, you know, but also local friendly food. This idea of community being closer to where your food comes from, where your food is sold, and how you know, the fact that you eat something locally and you might actually know who grew it or who harvested it or who sold it to you. And that kind of idea of building people's sense of where food comes from, and that, as Sandy said, that food is as unsynthetic and as real and as organic as possible. And I don't mean the organic label, I mean it is as close to nature as nature intended. So yeah.
What about another question? If anybody else, I just wanted to give a bit of the opportunity to, especially if there are the students from the University of Cork, if they have any questions, any burning question, please do jump in. This is your chance. No better than asking the pioneers. But
I would be keen to hear from a student about, you know, since it's a postgraduate study, what their thoughts are on what we're doing and in relation to their studies. It would be really interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Anybody can jump in? No.
Remember, we're just part-time students as well. I might look, well, I'll speak for myself, might look very old, but, you know, still classed as a student.
we have another question. Gareth, you wanted to come in? He's not a student, I know that for sure.
No, I'm not a student anymore, not so much. Yeah, well done, as I've said, for starting during a pandemic. That surely wasn't an easy thing to do. But I was just interested, now you set up, and I think you said that in 2022 you'll launch the membership drive, or you'll go out more publicly as you build up social media. So have you thought about what success might look like in that first year or within the first 5 years? Have you set any goals for yourselves as to where you'd like to be in a set amount of time?
Well,
We,
yeah, sorry, Sandy, you work away there.
no, you go. Well, we did initially set some goals, but COVID really changed that. So we haven't really set any solid targets at the moment, but Jill, I'll let you.
Other than obviously we want to build our membership, so, but we'll have to be realistic because a lot of that is going to be online. There are fewer, offline events where you can actually get hold of people and, see the whites of their eyes. So it's a bit more difficult. But that said, we will be building our social media, our socials, and that will be happening very soon. We do have a website, but, again, as I say, we are full-time. It is what it is at the minute. We're trying our very best with our available time. So yes, members, first and foremost, we are working on this community initiative with one of the councils. So that's looking very promising. So certainly, spreading out with other councils, with other government bodies as well, to try and get the horticultural message out there, and trying to get it into certainly the college where we got our qualifications from, because it's the main college here, Gareth. In Northern Ireland, it's Loughry and Enniskillen and Greenmount. And Loughry, then there's also the Baffrey, business, agriculture, food, rural environment. Isn't that right, Sandy?
Yeah.
So we're taking part in that as well. So there's a lot of students involved with that. So getting the message out, I think, is very important to students and to teachers, and letting them know really what co-ops are about. And that's just in the horticulture sphere, obviously. Does that sort of part of the way answer your question? And we will have, we do have an outline, plan as such, but that has been affected very much so by COVID.
It does, and as you say, challenging times. There've been so much surrounding the co-op. So it's finding the time to be able to focus in and devote more time to it.
Yeah. We need to have something that we can actually say to members, look, this is what we're doing, this is what we have. So that's the stage we're at, with the council, and then say, look, what we're doing with communities, and then the feed bank initiative for next year, which we touched upon as well, which didn't happen this year. It's very frustrating, but we'll get there, because we're determined, we're pig-headed.
I think that there is a lot of thinking to be done, in particular with the educational institution, because in some sort of way we keep producing very skilled individuals, but lonely individual out there. So the cooperative could be a real great structure to bring all these skills together and overcome the difficulties of starting up your own business by yourself. Unfortunately, in the traditional academic institution, or even the more professional ones, we are producing individuals that we threw them out in the world and say, now cope with everything, build up your own business from scratch. Instead, the cooperative structure that particularly this Good to Grow has done is not to leave a great skilled individual alone, but to bring them together and work together, so that it's easier sharing the risks and sharing also the knowledge that they have. But we have another questions in the chat from Mike.
Yes,
Mike, I read your question, but you can jump in. Was it difficult to source a seed capital to set up the co-op?
Okay, well, Tiziana, through Cooperative Alternatives, and also through the Belfast City Council, through its Get Ready to Grow. And then we had match funding, Mike, through, it was Projects That Matter was a thing set up by Belfast City Council last year. And we were one of 10 that got through to the final, and they were going to give up to, I think it was 10K, match funding. But with COVID and so on, we managed then at the end of the day to pull in £5,000 from that, which we were very pleased and very grateful for, very appreciative. It probably would have been much more if the pandemic hadn't been there. So there were 3 sources straight away, and now through one of the councils we have a source of revenue coming in there as well. And eventually then we'll have revenue coming through from members as well. Does that help, Annie?
Yeah, but why you don't tell a bit more about how your attempts of crowdfunder was? Because the initial money came from a crowdfunding exercise. Do you remember that?
That was the Projects That Matter. That was
Yes.
Belfast City Council Projects
How
That
was
Matter.
your experience of raising capital through crowdfunder.co.uk? And explain maybe what it is, that platform.
Yeah, it's a platform. It's a UK-based platform, and they help raise money through crowdfunding for any number of initiatives and ideas. But they paired up with Belfast City Council on that occasion last year. I think it was the first time it happened. I dare say there are other platforms that do this elsewhere throughout Ireland with various councils.
The Ulster Bank, Jill, don't they? The Ulster Bank do something similar. They do.
I think most of the banks do, and Bank of Ireland, because we tried for various things as well, and we're shortlisted for various things as well. So it's a matter of just putting yourself out there, and and asking, and just lifting the phone, just asking. What's the worst can happen? Somebody can tell you to go away. So that's really it, and just making sure that people know you're there. Now, again. Whenever we were initially going to launch this, we had a lot of flyers and posters, and they were wasted because with COVID, we couldn't put those out anywhere, and you still can't put flyers out. So that's why social media is so important, to make people aware and keeping an eye on what grants and what funding streams are available.
And Cooperative in supporting us through all our governance, our setup. Our steering group was so important in sorting out who really wanted to be part of the cooperative. So rather than jumping straight into the cooperative and people withdrawing, we actually, before we did the official final paperwork for the cooperative, we were very clear about who was going to work and stay with it, and who had time to contribute. And that was, I think that's really important to our success. And there's no animosity about people saying, yes, we want to join a cooperative and then not contributing. So the steering group helped sort of sort them out. Yeah, that was really very helpful.
And Sandy, you used the part of your seed funding to develop your online presence. Was it not that you started to develop your website and everything else?
We did. So with the Cooperative Alternatives, with that seed funding, helped us. We purchased a platform, and we've worked on that. Again, because our funding is limited, the content on that is generated by ourselves. So that's just skills that we've had to pick up on and learn, and it's been great. It's been fantastic. So yeah, it is a learning process, and as we get new members, there'll be people with other skills and ideas on how to improve it. Eventually, we would like to be able to have a platform for different subspecialties. So you might have one for community gardens, you might have one for people that have sort of sources for where to source things from in general. Like, for instance, seeds are very difficult to source at the moment because of Brexit. So we're very keen to have those platforms. Eventually, we also will have it as a services site. So we're toying with a few different ideas. So, if you're a landscaper, you might like to list your services on there. There will be a fee for that, but it's a bit chicken and egg. We can't charge a fee until we get we're known a lot more and we get a lot more organic ranking in website platforms. And then eventually one of the membership benefits will be that if they go to that provider that's on our website, that the members will get a particular type of discount, and that will be part of the price of, you know, traders actually listing their services on there. We also would like to be able to offer jobs and also information. So, you know, we'd like to be working with DERA, who are the equivalent to Chagas, in actually putting up what things are being worked on at the moment. So, you know, we know at the moment that there's a program where they're looking at growing strawberries over winter and raspberries. So, you know, that soft fruit thing, how they can do that in a winter climate. So, and it is done gently. It's not necessarily heavy chemical work. And I think that there's an illusion out there that industry and the education colleges are not sort of following so much on the organic side, where they're trying to reduce that need, and they're environmentally aware. So I think that information could be shared beyond our, you know, Green Mount world.
I think also the anti-peat lobby as well for 2030, because Green Mountain Cafe and all of these various governments are working on that to get peat alternatives, you know, so that's all part of what, you know, we'll be helping to highlight, we hope, as well. Yeah.
Any other question? Julie, you have your hands up, or anybody else? Well, I have to say, I keep scrutinizing. Thank you, Gareth. So you put something in the chat, and look at the cooperative.org.uk.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I will say that in our little kind of part of the island, we are doing very well. We are creating an ecosystem of, I think, very interesting emerging cooperative that they need all our support. So please, in this, if you wanted to do something to promote or to support the cooperative kind of sector, just follow these beautiful ideas that they are flourishing. So get the information from Good to Grow and Azora and Belfast Food Co-op, those 3 new kind of cooperatives, and help them, giving them feedback, and help them kind of in their own journey. For me, from the development point of view, I think that it always amazes me how the cooperatives are made of people. Really, it's not really about money. It's about finding the right people, having the right conversation around the table. So yes, money can be a big issue and a big kind of worry, but if you have the right vision, the right kind of conversation around that table, do please come and talk to us, because this is what we want. We wanted to have more of this conversation. We don't want to create a big cooperatives. We wanted to create a small cooperatives so well networked that we will change and will provide an alternative of what is there. And I think this is what is Principle 6 is all about in our cooperative principles, cooperation among cooperatives, but also among cooperators. Another kind of question just appeared now. Cooperative model is a great way for group business in like-minded people. Did you meet any obstacles from competition or other externals? That's the last question before we finish.
Not yet. not yet. I think what we're doing in Northern Ireland, certainly that there isn't, apart from their various forums and so on, but I don't think there's anything else really at the moment that's doing the same thing. So I don't want to say unique, because I don't think that exists. You know, where there's a marketplace, there's always new entrants. But at the moment, that would be, what, if you anything to add, Sandy?
I think one of the challenges has been the educational institutions, because they're starting to become interested now, but initially because they don't really teach about the cooperative model, which they are now showing interest. It has been a challenge. So it's been work, but it's positive. It's moving in a very positive direction, so which is great. Would you say that, Jill?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's very much for, you know, the next generation as well. For all generations, you know, it's multi-generational, really, horticulture. You know, it's not all about digging. There's so much. I mean, there's botany, and there's all manner of things. So we plan to work with and involve many different experts.
There's always weeding. Everyone has to weed.
There's always weeding, yeah. There's mulching. There's no dig, as you keep talking about.
And there's no Roundup.
And there's no Roundup. That's exactly it. There's no Roundup. Yeah.
Okay, we are reaching 1 o'clock. We keep it to an hour. These are very short session over your lunch, very informal, just to really meet a new cooperative. One day we will meet Julie. I hope Julie will accept to come and discuss Azora again in another Discovery Cops. But in the meantime, please, thank you to Jill and Sandy. It's been a pleasure working with you, and it's been really good that you've done and achieved so much in such difficult situations. But all the best for the future, and I hope to continue, you know, our relationship, not as a support relationship, but our relationship as cooperatives in Northern Ireland in particular. So thank you very much, and goodbye to all, and thank you for all the attendees.
Yes, thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.